You know that red and blue box, the logo, the promise of a late-night pizza delivery? But behind that brand is one of the most incredible, frankly brutal, and just plain bizarre business stories you will ever hear.
I mean, it's a global empire, right? Over 15,000 stores. It's a household name that basically means delivery.
Because the story of Domino's, it really isn't about pizza at all. It's about a man who was abandoned by his mother, kicked out of school, and nearly went bankrupt, all before he created a multi-billion-dollar company. So let's get into it. To really understand the relentless, almost ruthless ambition that built Domino's, you first have to understand the absolute nightmare that was Tom Monahan's childhood.
I mean, his early life just reads like a series of gut punches. It started on Christmas Eve when he was just 4. His father died, and his mother couldn't support him and his brother. So for the next 7 years, they were bounced between this really strict Catholic orphanage and a string of foster homes. He finally finds a dream, becoming a priest, only to get expelled from seminary for being, too much of a troublemaker. And then came the final, truly unimaginable blow. His own mother sent him to a juvenile detention center. At just 17, he was completely on his own.
And what's so fascinating is that even after all of that, the ambition was already burning bright. This quote from his high school yearbook is just incredible. He graduated dead last in his class, but he was already telling the world he was destined for something sensational. So after a stint in the Marines and then losing all of his savings to some get-rich-quick oil scam, Tom was right back at square one. But then his brother came to him with an idea that would change, well, everything.
They bought this tiny, struggling pizza shop in Michigan. And get this, neither of them knew how to make a pizza. But they figured, they could split the shifts, Tom could still go to college, and his brother Jim could keep his day job as a mailman. It sounded like the perfect plan.
And this right here, this might be one of the worst business deals in history. Just 8 months in, Jim was totally overwhelmed and wanted out, so he made a trade. His entire 50% stake in the business for their only delivery car, a used VW Beetle. Jim just drove away, leaving Tom completely alone with a struggling pizza shop that would eventually become a billion-dollar empire.
A few years later, the original owner of Dominos demanded Tom stop using his name. After going through like 100 ideas, one of his delivery drivers suggested Domino's. Tom loved it. They designed the logo with 3 dots for the 3 stores he owned. His initial plan was to add a dot for every new location, which kind of shows you that even he had no idea just how massive this thing was about to become. Okay, so now, on his own, Tom went all in. He became obsessed with one single idea: efficiency. How could he possibly make and deliver pizzas faster and cheaper than absolutely anyone else? His first big breakthrough actually came by accident. Half his staff was a no-show one night, so he had to slash the menu. It turned into one of his most profitable nights ever, and it taught him this crucial lesson: simplicity is speed. From there, the innovations just kept coming. He pioneered the corrugated cardboard box to keep pizzas from getting crushed. And he created a central commissary system to supply all his stores with consistent dough and toppings, which cut costs way down and let each store focus on just 2 things: assembly and delivery. But that early success, it led to a near-fatal mistake. He expanded way too fast, almost went bankrupt, and found himself $1.5 million in debt. So to save the company, he developed this radical new franchise model. You couldn't just buy a Domino's anymore. You had to work your way up and prove you could successfully manage a store first. This made sure every owner was experienced and deeply invested, which finally stabilized the entire company. By the 1980s, Domino's was an absolute rocket ship. But that explosive growth, which was fueled by a relentless focus on speed, came at a very, very dark price. Ah, yes, the promise that defined them: 30 minutes or it's free. It was a genius marketing move that terrified competitors and sent sales through the roof. Customers loved it. I mean, you either got a fast pizza or a free one, but it created a culture with some deadly consequences. This quote from an attorney representing a couple hit by a Domino's driver, it just sums up the whole problem perfectly. The pressure on drivers and managers was absolutely immense. In fact, a company survey back in 1984 found that 10% of its drivers admitted to driving recklessly just to meet that deadline. The public backlash was enormous. After a series of tragic accidents and a massive $79 million lawsuit, the company finally buckled under the pressure. In 1993, Domino's officially dropped the 30-minute guarantee that had built its entire brand. And as if all the legal troubles weren't enough, the company then stumbled into one of the most bizarre PR crises ever.
Their popular mascot was this odd little character called the Noid, with the slogan, "Avoid the Noid." Well, the whole campaign came to a screeching halt when a man, whose actual last name was Noid and who was suffering from mental illness, took 2 Domino's employees hostage at gunpoint because he was convinced the company was personally targeting him. The hostages escaped unharmed, but yeah, the Noid character was retired almost overnight.
So fast forward to the late 2000s, and Domino's is in trouble again. Tom Monahan had sold the company, the quality had just plummeted, and the brand was kind of a joke. But what they did next became absolutely legendary in the business world.
The new CEO, Patrick Doyle, did something most leaders are absolutely terrified to do. He listened. And the feedback from their focus groups was just brutal. The company was facing this simple, devastating reality. People hated their pizza. The stock was trading for less than $3 a share. So instead of making excuses, they did the exact opposite. They launched this massive, nationwide ad campaign that was all about radical honesty. They showed real footage of customers saying their pizza tasted like cardboard. And then they admitted, you know what, you're right. And they promised to start over, rebuilding their pizza recipe completely from scratch. And this chart just shows you how powerfully that gamble paid off. Customers respected the honesty, they tried the new pizza, it was genuinely better, and sales just exploded. The result? The stock price soared nearly 4,000% over the next decade, making Domino's one of the best-performing stocks of the 2010s, even beating out a lot of tech giants. The final piece of the puzzle was a total pivot in their identity. They leaned hard into technology, launching the first mobile ordering app for a pizza chain, and of course, the now famous pizza tracker. They weren't just a pizza company anymore. They were a logistics and technology powerhouse that made convenience its new obsession. The story of Domino's is just this wild ride. From orphanage to empire, from deadly promises to digital trackers. And it really forces you to ask, in our endless quest to get things faster and easier, what are the hidden costs? And what does it really take to not just survive failure, but to turn it into your greatest strength?